Welcome to episode 38 of NCAA and we're going to get right underway talking about the NFL preseason is coming up. Team rosters right now are floating around 88 to 90 guys, 92 guys, 90, 95, 100, 102 guys floating around, tons of names you start to recognize. It's really cool. Just going to shout some of those guys out, just names that I recognize. My guy Adisa just came back. He's been injured. He had an elbow injury that was pretty gnarly. He's going into his third year, I believe, and outside linebacker for the Ravens. It was a welcome sight to see him on the field, bouncing around, looking spry. Also, Nnamdi Adebuke, their center, not a guy that I know, but shout out to him. Ian Wheeler over on the Bills. Shout out to Ian. Wild running back room. To be fully honest, not like the Bills are gonna watch this, right? But I don't think he's got an outside chance of making the roster as the fourth back because they have the league leader in rushing and James Cook and then Ray Davis and Frank Gore Jr. as well. Just a loaded room, and then Ian loaded room. They've obviously got other guys because you take five or six backs into camp, but him for sure. Uh, Other guys, all the guys that are alum of places that I've been for sure. Shout out to those dudes. This is not easy, Mac Jones, McCorkle. One of my great friends, she was in the same class as him. And it's funny too, because she was also in the same class as this other guy that we were mutual friends with. And is the world is just so small sometimes. There's really a small amount of separation between you and the people around you and the people across from you, the people in your phone. Sometimes it's just wild. But from a preseason standpoint, what you want to see is guys compete for spots, right? You want to see guys who are hungry. You just saw that with Haynes King out of Georgia Tech. He went undrafted versus Carson Beck, a guy who went sixth round, right? And Beck made some great throws. King made some great plays as well. King is trying to fight for a spot, and Kenny Pinkett is a guy who probably is trying to ease into the role of backup quarterback, permanent backup quarterback, and I don't think he's done that yet. You have to have a moment like Matt Flynn when A-Rod sat because he was going to win MVP, and Matt Flynn threw 6 touchdowns in Week 17 versus the Seahawks. You have to have moments like that to be a real backup quarterback. You have to be able to go into the game, and there's not a shadow of a doubt. Kenny Pickett is on that team because he was traded from them because he couldn't compete in a loaded quarterback room on a losing team, on a mediocre team. As good as some of those quarterbacks could be and might have been, that team sucked. And Kenny Pickett couldn't compete in that room. And so that's why he's on the team he's on now. And so Haynes King is out there competing. You have guys like AJ Dillon who is deep in that court in that running back room on the Panthers, who definitely made his way up. They had him listed behind Trevor Etienne and somebody else, but they had him listed behind those dudes. But AJ Dillon is showing that he still got a lot of juice. They used to call him Mott's or whatever. He had a sponsorship with Mott's. They used to call him that, but he still got a little bit of juice in them legs. That's what he's showing. But speaking of juice, Juice Bell up in Buffalo, very good friend of Nick Thomas, classmate of mine, friend of the show. And Nick's over at Toledo right now, but Juice was a hell of a player at Taft, and I think he should have won the Bolintikoff. I think I might have said that on the show. I believe he should have won the Bolintikoff. No one's going to give it to him because it's UConn, but the stuff he was doing was really special. I think he can run the tree. Realistically, what you don't get from Bell is you don't get like blocking, and you don't get as much over the field stuff. He's to me, he's an outside receiver that they're gonna put in the slot. But he looks like Jamar Chase. When you turn the tape on, you look at some of the side by side stuff. He looks like Jamar Chase. I would have him be an outside receiver. I think he's already miles ahead better than Keon Coleman, just as a player. Like Juice Bell's a good player. And Josh Allen is known to get the best out of players who might not have been that good. I mean, look at Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis looked like a Rolls Royce when he was playing on the Buffalo Bills next to Stephon Diggs as a wide receiver too, next to Josh Allen. But when he went and signed that contract for the Jaguars, he didn't look like that at first for a while. He might have had one season where he got funky. I don't even know where Gabe Davis is right now. If he's in the league, I apologize severely. If he's not, my point is proven. But Jaguars, I think Trevor Lawrence is a dark horse MVP candidate, and that's saying a lot. But considering who's gotten MVP in recent years, I think that the landscape is wide open. I think anybody could get it. It's going to be really hard for a non-quarterback to get it. And that being considered, Trevor Lawrence is a guy who people forget was number one his whole life before he got to Jacksonville. Like before that, he's number one in high school. They used to do the Elite 11. It was a big deal on YouTube. You watch him get number one in that. Best player in the state, best player in the country at Clemson. Like he's the best, and he went number one. And in Jacksonville, they've been kind of mediocre, but in the seasons that they've been good, he's been a big reason why. He's making ridiculous throws. He's a big, strong quarterback. He's fast. He processes the game really well. He's in probably year sheesh, seven. I don't want to say. I want to say maybe T Law is going into year seven. I could be wrong. Maybe five or seven. I'm really not sure. But I'm excited to see some of the preseason action. Will it tell us anything? No. As far as who's going to win the Super Bowl in February, I don't think the Super Bowl is going to tell us anything. But it's pivotal for guys who are on roster bubbles, and it's pivotal for fans to be able to see, some of those players that you love so much in college are going to stay college players. Like, and that's how good the NFL is. But at the same time, the game has changed, and so there's only so many guys who fit the mold of being these new type of players. There's only so many dudes who are 6'4", 260, and chiseled up walking around the streets that can play outside linebacker, but that will also follow what a team needs, will represent a team well, right? Antonio Brown is supremely talented. He's up for the 2027 Hall of Fame class. He's in that group of guys with Gronkowski and Roethlisberger and just a big group of guys. He's not going to get in because he's the way he acts. The way he is not able to represent himself adequately, right? And so a team wouldn't want to be connected to that, especially not in the short term, not in the short run. He's not going to get in, not for a while. If he does, I doubt he's going to get in. And I know people are like, "What?" But I doubt it. Um, and he's just thinking about how he's going to react when he doesn't get in the first time. I think that'll tell you everything, right? From there, he could make amends. Of course, he can make a story out of. I mean, he's fallen from grace, so you can always go up. And I think that kind of gets lost in the milieu of it a lot. Like you can always get up and go up. And unfortunately, Antonio Brown is not in that position, and it doesn't seem like he wants to be in that position. Does he need professional help? Yes. Do I think he's stupid or beside his right mind? Not absolutely. I think that he is conscious of a lot of the decisions he's making and how he's representing himself. And and that being said, like when you're connected to a guy like Tom Brady, who is somehow, some way, right? And I strongly believe that this is a conflict of interest, but Tom Brady is somehow, some way a minority owner of the Raiders, making business decisions for the Raiders, a team that he owns, and the biggest commentator on Fox. He's somehow in quarterback rooms with Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins. But when he's working for Fox, he's in these pre-show meetings with Kyler Murray talking about the coverages that he's looking at or the concepts that he wants to run offensively. He's in these meetings with KOC and with Sean McVay. He's in these meetings, and you'd be stupid to think that that's not getting back to the Raiders. It's a massive conflict of interest, and I think the Raiders are going to be good. I just don't know if it's going to be this upcoming year, because I think from watching quarterback, one thing that I took away from it was that Kirk Cousins is kind of done. He really cannot move around a lot at all, and that means that you're going to have to tailor the entire offense to him, and that limits what the team can do. Full stop. Ashton Genty is a tremendous player, but as you saw last year, 960 yards, 860 yards after contact. He's getting beat up every time he touches the football. And so that's not a sustainable way to play. And that's not going to get you far in the playoffs, when the field is gonna condense. Happens in basketball, happens in football. Field condenses, you know, everybody gets a little bit tighter. And you can only do so much. And sometimes you've played a team, especially if you play like a divisional game, and it's like Vikings and Packers sometimes in the playoffs. That's their third time playing each other. And so they know conceptually a lot of times what the other team's going to do a lot. And it just comes down to strapping it up and playing football. But then what do you do when you're in a jam? And what do you try to install that's different, but that's not outrageous to try to add, the week of a Super Bowl or two, or excuse me, the week of a playoff game. Let me know in the comments who you're most looking forward to seeing in this preseason. I am most looking forward to seeing Arvell Reese for as many snaps as he ends up playing. I don't think it's going to be higher than 100 snaps, to be fully honest, over the entirety of the first couple games, just because you don't have to see too much from him. He's who he is. Okay, speaking of New York, let's talk about the New York Yankees. So the New York Yankees, when I grew up, I when I was younger, I would go to the fairs, just like everyone go to the little scholastic fairs, and you buy a book. And so I'd always buy the Guinness World Records books, right? And so in the books, it tells you who has the most this, who has the most that. And so I always knew Lakers have the most championships, and the Celtics have the most championships. And wow, the Chicago Bulls are up there in championships, and that's all Michael Jordan. And wow, the Patriots are up there in championships, and that's most like Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I always knew that stuff just off the book, and I learned a lot of crazy facts from that book. Um, and seeing how many championships the Yankees won, winning 26 pennants to a lot of teams winning none ever, or to winning significantly less, is really impressive, but it's not in the way of, I mean, in some cases a team has a lot of championships, and that number is skewed because they're beating up on lesser competition a lot. Uh and the Yankees definitely were, since they were such an original team, they won some when the league wasn't so big and when the league didn't have African American players. But then you look at some of the guys that came out of there: Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Alex Rodriguez. I mean, it is a ridiculous factory. And so when All Rise, Mr. All Rise made his debut, I remember being a young cat and being like, man, like that's a force. Like it's one thing to play in New York in general, but the Yankees are gospel. And I grew up just liking the Yankees and the Mets. I really didn't feel like I had to pick because I never left New York for a while, so I didn't feel like I had to pick. I had a David Wright shirt, I had a Mets hat, I had couple Yankee hats, and I like Derek Jeter. I remember being sad when he had his little last game, just like everybody else. But I just remember winning, right? And the Yankees have not been winning as of late. They have not been winning. They went to the World Series this past time with Juan Soto, and you thought that was it, and you thought with Soto and Judge, and I don't think we had Bellinger at the time. We might have. I'm not sure, whatever. But you know what I'm saying. A lot of Garrett Cole, a lot of these big name dudes, Rodon, a lot of these big name contracts that are on the Yankees cannot get it done. They cannot get over the hump. And Aaron Boone is still managing the team. And this feels like a do or die situation for Boone, believe it or not. I believe Aaron Judge is going to come off the DL in the next 20 or so games, 15 or so games. I believe Giancarlo Stanton is going to come off the DL in those next couple games, and I think that it is let's go, because you look at this last series that the Yankees played. They're going against one of the best offenses in the MLB, and their big three. They only let up 3 runs in total. Those three guys, and one of them let up zero, one of them let up two, one of them let up one, and all of them had a bunch of strikeouts. So the Yankees are in a prime position on the mound, a position that they haven't been in a long time. They could have used maybe another closer at the deadline, but it doesn't matter. They need to show up. The bats need to show up. And so Jazz Chisholm, I mean, and defensively too, you look across the board, they can play some defense. With these trades, they can play some defense. And so all across the board, they can play great defense and they have great pitching. So they need to hit the baseball. That's like the last thing that the Yankees need to do to be competitive. They didn't show up in the World Series. They averaged 2.5 runs a game. They didn't show up in, like, they need to hit the baseball when it matters. And so they bring up this rookie, right? And it's all about, again, being a clean guy. And like you have a guy like Josh Chisholm who's caught some flack from not being the cleanest cut, like in general, but also like not being able to be thrown into a box that they want to throw you in from a traditional standpoint in baseball. And he's still shown up, and he's still been an incredible baseball player for the New York Yankees defensively. He's hitting like 193, 183. Really, it's rough to watch. He steals bags though when he gets on base, and he scores when he gets on base, and he hits home runs. He doesn't really hit singles that much. He big game farms a lot, but he hits home runs. So then you have this kid playing next to him now, this George Lombard Jr. And they pull him up, and he's clean looking kid. He's got on 96, reminiscent of Judge. He's in a big frame. He's not the biggest, but he's in a big frame for a middle infielder. And he he's making plays that Volpe hasn't made in a couple years. And Volpe's first year, he won the Golden Glove. I mean, he had a wild rookie season. I was like, dang, Volpe's a staple. No, Volpe is possibly a guy that can win you a pennant, but not as a guy that's consistently in your lineup, it seems. He's a guy that would burn anything for the Yankees. His heart burns for the Yankees. He's always wanted to play for the Yankees his whole life. And so he can understand going down to AAA, being optioned. You've seen he's been down to AAA playing catcher. He's been down to AAA playing second base. So he's above. He's not. He doesn't feel like he's above this. But it's got to be hard for him to watch this young rookie making these ridiculous plays. He said a couple dingers. He's forced these long at bats. He's had these 10, 11 pitch at bats. He had two challenges in a row. He won both of them. And he's very humble about it. He had a couple times he slipped in the infield, but he had a crazy tag, and where you see the runner in slow mo, he's just looking back like, man, did he get me? He had to look up at the jumbotron, and he got him super fast. His mechanics are there. He's sharp, and I think he understands the task at hand. That he's being pulled up because the New York Yankees have to win, and they have to win now. They have to win this year. They don't have. There's not another team in the MLB that's got a rotation as consistently good as the New York Yankees have right now, outside of 3 or 4 teams, right? The Brewers, the Pirates, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, maybe. Like there's 3 or 4 teams that have a trio of guys that are throwing as well as they're throwing right now, that are ready to throw as well as they're throwing right now. You couldn't have imagined Garrett Cole would come off of Tommy John, and he's giving up three low a game, 3.2 a game, 3.1 a game. He's getting strikeouts. His whip is fine. His run is fine. They're losing the games he's starting though, because they can't hit the freaking ball. So the Yankees need to get right, or otherwise, I'm gonna be real sad when I'm watching yet another team raise a pennant that's not the Yankees. Teddy Bridgewater has retired. Yes, the Teddy Bridgewater that got his own legislation in the state of Florida because he was buying up them kids some Long John Silvers and ordering them Ubers. What a shame. What a shame that they had to do that the school. But Teddy Bridgewater retiring is really sad to me because Teddy is one of those guys that just as soon as you say his name, it just snaps me back to them golden days of eighth grade, seventh grade, just talking sports all day. I promise them years I was so busy. Like seventh grade, seventh grade, I was going to school 6 days a week. Like I was going to school 5 days, and I had to go to this whole other thing in Manhattan. So I'm waking up stupid early Saturday morning. I'm taking the train in Manhattan. I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book on the train. Eyes barely taped open. I'm reading and annotating a book, 50 pages of a book, stuffing a bacon, egg, and cheese in my mouth for the airy, and just learning all day, 9 to 5, literally. Again, eyelids, taking the bus back, taking the train back home. Sunday was like the only off day, and then Sunday we doing laundry, we going to church, so no, not really an off. And then 6 days, you feel me? I'm working 6 days consistently. But I could remember so vividly, like at school when I was there, I was present, and that's partly because in 20, I'm about to reveal my age here, but in 2013, 14, we're not on our phone as much. We're not we there's not as much that we do that we rely on our phone in the first place. I had a very basic touch screen Android with a camera, and I would just use some of the apps, play some of the games. I would text people, but we wasn't texting like up all day, all night. Like if you was texting somebody up all day, all night, like that was your boyfriend or girlfriend. You feel me? Like not even on no group chat tip. Like we was really not texting like that. It was cool to be in a GC and be like, oh wow, like I'm in a group chat, but we were just not using our phone to the extent that we being society use our phone now. So we were just always at the lunch table, always talking about sports. Alabama was like so out of reach to us. We're like, dang, like Saban is the one. You watching Derrick Henry, Bo Scarborough, like like those dudes, Clinton Dix, a dog at Alabama. I mean, Clemson, was just starting to get on a little bit, just a little bit. Kelly Bryant era type deal. Taj Boyd. I mean, I'm sorry. Shout out Taj Boyd. Taj Boyd era. Like they was just getting on, back on. Ole Miss, all them schools. But Teddy Bridgewater, he was so nice at Louisville. And then I remember like it was yesterday. He had his pro day, and we was at school. We was like, "Yo, Teddy B." Like, he was like, "Yo, bro, you seen ESPN? Like he got his pro day today. Like he finna be nice." And there was the whole deal about the glove. Remember, they were like Teddy Bridgewater with the glove. He can't throw without the glove on, and so he threw with one glove on. He had a terrible day, and then he decided to throw at the combine. He either threw without a glove or he threw with one glove, and he had like a bad day. He missed a bunch of random throws, and then at his pro day, he threw with two gloves, I think, and was dying. It was just dying. And I remember being weak at school. We were like, "Dang, like the glove. I guess the glove really make a difference." Like just a bunch of kids who just had no idea. And Teddy B, for what it's worth, like he had some really solid years in Minnesota. It's a shame that he just be. I feel like he was relegated to become a career backup a little soon, but also like might have been limited athletically. Like just because a guy is like ripped doesn't mean that he doesn't have a bunch of tears in his knee or tears in his shoulder. Like perfect example is like RG3. You could turn on your phone right now, and RG3 is running a hurdle at his house full of paper bags, and so it's like yeah, like that's a guy that could run those stuff, but from his knee is all cooked up. You know what I'm saying? Okay, the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately, every time I watch the draft, the Dallas Cowboys draft well. I remember last year they got Siobhan Rivell. I was like, damn, they got him. I wanted him hella bad from East Carolina. They draft well all the time. And when they got Caleb Downs this year, this was an all-time. Michael is watching the draft, and I'm like, dang, the Cowboys are drafting well. Caleb Downs is a good football player. What was all the hullabaloo about him for? I don't know. I don't understand it to this day. I think the New York Giants should have went double Ohio State with Arvell Reese and with Caleb Downs. I truly believe that because Tyler Newman is not the guy. He to be effective in the NFL, your box safety is essentially just another nickel player. Everyone in the NFL wants to play too high, but your box safety is basically just another nickel player because of his responsibilities. You know what I'm saying? And so Tyler Newman is not able to fulfill those responsibilities. He cannot. He's not good enough in the run. He's not good enough in the pass, and it's glaring. It's not like his position is too important. Teams are always when teams rank defenders bet worst to best. He's always towards the top half of the ranking. There's never a time a team scouts the New York Giants and they have number 21 on the defense towards the top half. There's never a time. It's just not gonna happen. Um, this is unfortunate because I like the guy, but he's not the guy. So I say all that to say that the Cowboys got Caleb Downs, and when you look at the Cowboys defensively, Caleb Downs, Rashawn Gary, Quinnen Williams, they look good, huh? The Dallas Cowboys look good defensively, and they're gonna need that because Dak Prescott is on one this year. I think last year he was really just Dak Prescott and around. He loves Jake Ferguson. He could throw a seam ball like no one else. But George Pickens really lit the scoreboard up last year. CeeDee Lamb, whether he's getting 1,000 yards or 12 or 1,400, it doesn't matter because he's getting the coverage as well. He's demanding the coverage. People always think, I mean, CeeDee Lamb is just a highlight reel, but he's just to me, CeeDee Lamb is there's about eight. I can name 8 or 9 guys that are better than he is, maybe 12, and that's not a diss to him. But I think that teams dedicate a lot of attention to him when you could get the same thing done without wasting an extra defender or without uh, spending your coverage on him specifically. But Quinnen Williams was a part of that he was an acquisition they made from the Jets, and they signed him to this 3-year 105. And so you're paying him now $36 million a year, $35 million a year. And Michael, you traded because of you didn't want to pay him $40 million a year. But you also were gonna have to pay with Rashawn Gary. And I bet next year they draft a guy that they're gonna have to pay 2 years from that. So the Cowboys are hustling backwards, but lo and behold, they have an impeccable defensive unit. I'm really concerned for us, the New York Giants, but also other teams. The Eagles, just like last year, are going to have a great defensive unit with two top 10 cornerbacks. but the addition of um, Tariq Woolen, who just won a Super Bowl, bringing that Super Bowl pedigree. He's a big, tall, long corner, and so I'm really concerned about the Cowboys, the Eagles as well for us. Okay, let's talk about the NCAA fifth year, and then we'll end with some WNBA here. So the NCAA grants a fifth year. A judge has granted essentially a fifth year to all of the class of 2022 athletes as well, right? Because all the other athletes are the 5-5 is pending, but it seems like it's going to pass. Okay, and so the class of 2022 athletes, they just are off all these rosters. All right. They're all getting jobs, they're all getting CDLs, and they're like, we want to play too. They want the money. Some of them are gonna actually go get degrees, which is nice on maybe on a college dime. Some of them probably miss free healthcare or free surgery. A lot of these big schools, you tear your ACL at camp, they handle that whole thing. I mean, in my first, I mean, it's high school, but it's the same thing. When I first got to boarding school, I got a concussion the second week I was there. That was terrible. And I went to there was a health center on campus. The health center took me to Boston General. Boston General gave me a CAT scan, all the scans. They gave me a X-ray, all that for the free ski. And the dean of students brought me to McDonald's for the free ski. You know what I'm saying? Brought me right back to school. You don't have that once you stop becoming a college athlete. So maybe that's what the class of 2022 really wants. But they've all been granted a fifth year. I think that this is gross. I don't think that this sets a great precedent. The NCAA is balancing closing the door on how much money these people are making with also getting a large influx of money because every single one of these schools depends on football's revenue. The revenue that football generates pays for a lot of these other sports because almost every athletic department in America is in debt. They are in the negative. They are not there in the red. And the only ones that are in the positive or that break even are the ones where football is a massive contributor by a vast margin. And so teams are navigating, from a Texas standpoint, from a UT standpoint, right? UT's has a loaded roster this year. Steve Sarkisian talked publicly about having to make roster cuts. This is a high school, this is a college team. He publicly talked about having to essentially make roster cuts to let other guys come to the team that he was going to be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, low millions, one point whatever million dollars. That's wild, but that's the world we live in. And so, from a Texas standpoint, it would sound cool, right? To be like, oh, fifth year so and so and fifth year so and so are out of retirement to join this team because they're loading up, and everyone wants to compare everybody to 2019 LSU. But that's literally what happened. I checked ESPN, and it was two guys. It was a guard, and I can't remember the other position, but two guys that was just in the Texas class or whatever that's coming out, the high school class of 2022 that's going to go play their fifth year at Texas. And it's just so shameless because I was college class of 22. I got three. I already had 2 years. I got 3 years now. I got 3 years, you know, and I'm gonna keep working my 9 to 5 job. Because what are you talking about? Like these people are taking opportunities away from high school kids. One of the beautiful things about being an athlete in any capacity, but also being a high school and a college athlete, and even going back to anytime you put a jersey on, the coolest thing about it is you get to take it off and the next person puts it on. And you're like, wow, you put that jersey on too? That's so cool. You're done. It's over. Like you got to know when to turn the page. And it's okay. It's okay. Shallow Sanders, he turned the page. I'm shocked. Out of all the people on the planet, he could have milked it. He could have used his connections to get. He could be at training camp right now. He's not terrible. He's really not horrendous, but he's not an NFL player. And I'm glad that he knew that. I'm glad he knows he's not an NFL player because he's definitely not. Okay. Uh, all right. Olivia Miles, Kelsey Mitchell, Asia Wilson. That is the three-headed MVP race at this point. Okay. You have to go Mitchell over Clark because she's been more effective, more consistent, and harder to guard. The thing about Caitlin Clark is she gets the bulk of her points by doing three things. Okay. She hunts matchups, right? She hunts the worst player on the floor. Okay. She gets to the basket or gets to the foul line because of a rotation, and that's IQ, right? That's on her because of rotation. She sees when people come out the paint and when they follow screens, so she goes to the cup then, or she flops and gets to the 3 point line or gets to the foul line, or okay, she's pulling from range, going to her left. It's something she likes to go to her left side, right? If she has the ball in her left hand, she'll bounce to the left and pull the three, or she'll one bounce with the left, post to the three. She really struggles going left to right, and I commented on this a couple years ago because it's very interesting. It's just a thing that certain players have and don't have, and that's why we have to give people like LeBron James more credit, but people like Elena Deladon who has a game with no holes. People like Maya Moore who has a game with no holes. Your game is supposed to have a hole. No one is going to have a perfect game, and people are also just going to have parts about their game that are very unique to them. With Caitlin Clark, like she has to go left to get her three off, or it has to be a dead on pull up three, and she gets her bucks. But Kelsey Mitchell gets her bucks on three levels every single way, every single time. She's seeing double, triple coverage, and she's frying, and she's shooting a ridiculous percentage. She's shooting like 54, 55% from the field while having the most 20-point game streaks in WNBA history. That is an MVP season. So she's the first candidate. Asia Wilson, because she's having an Asia Wilson season. She's very efficient. She's very effective. She's averaging like 26 and 12. I mean, that's Asia Wilson for you with three stocks. Okay, you can't forget the defensive side of the ball. And all three of these, well, the two of these, but because I don't want to take away from Miles, she's not as good defensively as Mitchell or Wilson. Wilson is a former defensive player of the year. You saw when she had Caitlin ISO'd, right, coming down. But Miles, the only knock on her is her lack of defensive presence. That's what's going to stop the Lynx at the next level. The next level being the playoffs, because their offensive engine has enough to score. But what can be overstated is that the Indiana Fever are having the best offensive season as a team ever right now. They're averaging 105 points a game, which is really hard to compete with. So with Miles, like just the lack of defensive presence, but she's a monster offensively. I think that she deserves some votes for MVP when it's all said and done. I'm not sure who's going to win between the three of them, but it should be one of the three of them for sure. Last but not least, no Sabrina Ionescu on Team USA. There's been some discourse about this. I don't know why. I don't know who they don't want her to replace. I don't know who they want her to replace. Paige Beckers has fallen off in the second half of the season. I think she's injured. I had remarked about how both her and AZ, I think they're trying to get through. They're trying to power through. They really know that they have something right now, but they both come off of season-ending injuries. Those don't just go away. They do a lot of treatment. They've both put together really great basketball since then. That doesn't just go away. Those are season-ending injuries that your body feels at certain times. And so with Paige, I think that that's really what's getting to her. So she's kind of falling off with this WNBA season in this last half. But when you think about a player whose game is equipped for international basketball, because she can play the one, the two, she can defend. She needs to get better at defending, but she can defend. She can play again the one or two. She can assist. She can pass. She can shoot, and she is a player that is equipped to play the international game. The USA team is going to have to go up against France, which is going to be stacked. Um, but yeah, UNESCO is not replacing Becker. She's not replacing Clark. She's not replacing Kelsey Mitchell. She's not replacing Casey Plum. Casey Plum always gets strangely underrated in this discourse. Casey Plum and Jackie Young are the same kind of really, really good basketball player that get overlooked in this discourse. Number one picks back to back for a reason, you know, for the Aces when they got Jackie. Jackie's a demon. All right, that's it for me. Episode 38. Deuce.